Hi guys, in this video we're going to be looking at a test route from Ashfield Driving Test Centre. Now on this occasion we're not starting in the test centre. This is an independent drive where the pupil is just being directed around a test route with as little support as possible, and the aim is I want to see them drive with absolutely no support before they go for their test. Coming up to the lights, you can see we're lined up for a right turn. The pupil's got a really good position in the lane. Be mindful of the vehicles on the left there, because a very common thing for people to do in situations like this is sit too far to the left and actually be on that white line or very close to it, and that of course creates an issue for the cars on the left. So you want to make sure all four wheels are completely in your lane, and then as you move on you're not going to cause any issues to the cars on your left. Keep the wheels nice and straight as you move off too. Another common issue is leaning left when people move away for a right turn or leaning right for a left turn, and that of course is going to put you closer to that traffic in the next lane. And when you're sat waiting at the lights, of course, keep your eyes moving. Don't just stare at the traffic lights or the car in front. Be aware of what's around you. As we move through the junction, you'll see the pupil gets the speed up quite nicely. They're looking up and ahead here as well, and they're taking it straight into that left-hand lane, and that is absolutely spot on. They're then straight over those mirrors because we want to know what's coming with us. If somebody comes around and wants to overtake you, we want to know. Up ahead, we got a green light. Always approach these defensively, cover your mirrors, cover your brake, and then commit when you get close enough to commit. We don't want to commit too soon and end up having to jump on the brakes. We want those approaches well planned and well prepared and smooth if we do need to stop. Notice the lanes merging too, so just got to make sure we're covering those mirrors too. At the traffic lights ahead, we're going straight towards Chesterfield, and you can see the markings nice and early for this one. Just make sure you're in the correct lane as you approach, and as you can see, coming up to the lights here, the pupil is in the left-hand lane of what goes straight ahead. He's ignored the filter lane in that left-hand lane to go straight, and that's absolutely perfect, because as we leave the junction then, we haven't got anyone on the left of us. We're in the ideal position and we can be overtaken while we're not overtaking. We only want to be on the right when we're overtaking or when we plan to turn right. Another set of traffic lights. Again, just be mindful they could change at any point. I want to see the brakes covered for a few seconds before you reach that point of no return. And then once you reach the point of no return, the point you can no longer stop safely, if the light is still green, you get going. Into a national speed limit as well. And you can see the pupil picking up the speed quite well, but still keeping it quite cautious. And that's absolutely fine. 45, we've got a junction up ahead anyway, so we don't want to be rushing up to that junction. And it's got traffic lights, and we'll be turning left at that. Notice the 30 sign as well, how the pupil's got the speed down before they reach that sign, rather than slowing down after it. Turning left at this junction, you might notice the direction sign on the left-hand side as we turn. It's got two arrows on it. The left-hand side says left, and the right-hand side says straight. Now, that sign is going to direct us for the next part of the road. So as we turn left, we've got to be aware of which lane we need. So if you're going left and left, you'll go left into the left lane, and that'll take you around to that second left. In this case, we're going left and straight. So as we turn, the pupil needs to be in the right-hand lane to continue straight. And you'll see perfect position as they come round. And then we've got priority, whereas the left turn give way to cars turning in. Traveling down a road like this, what I want to see is regular use of all three mirrors. That left-hand mirror is going to help you judge the gap you're leaving between the parked cars and yourself. Now, ideally, you want to be leaving a door's width. Now, by that, what I mean is if somebody in one of those parked cars opens the door, you're not going to be straight in the path of it. You won't have to swerve out the way of it. You're already clear of where that door is going to be. On your center mirror, then, you should be checking that frequently for anything coming up behind you. I was always told every 8 to 10 seconds, and I agree with that. 8 to 10 seconds is a good frequent time to keep an eye on those mirrors and just keep up to date on what's approaching from behind. And of course, the right mirror, we want to know where those white lines are, and if there's vehicles coming up to overtake, we want to keep an eye on them as well. You can see the pupils holding a very steady speed through here where there's more activity, more cars. they're going slower, and that's absolutely perfect too. That should be accompanied with lots of mirror use as well, extra mirror use when there's more going on to keep you more up to date with what's going on around you. Notice the school zone here. We've got a school sign and an advisory for 20 mile an hour when the lights flash. Now the lights weren't flashing, so we can carry on at 30 if it's safe to do that. There's a reminder of the speed limit too. Now if those lights were flashing, the advice would be to do 20 mile an hour, and we'd judge that based on the condition of the roads. Typically outside of school hours, 30 mile an hour is absolutely fine as a limit. Legally, that 30 mile an hour limit still applies, but the advice for 20 should be followed if the situation demands it. If it's busy, for example, at kicking out time for the schools or in the morning drop-off time. So be very mindful of the road conditions, the time of day you'll be out and about. If you're going to be doing your test during school times, watch out for those advisories and do listen to them. They're there for a reason. Again, we've got a little more activity up ahead. You can see there's plenty of room on this occasion though, so the pupil's keeping her speed up really well. We've then got some warnings about traffic lights and a junction ahead. Again, those warnings are there to help you plan for what you can't see at that point, so you don't come hurtling around at 30 mile an hour and find a vehicle halfway through pulling out or a pedestrian halfway across the road. Those warning signs are there to give you a heads up that there may be risks involved up ahead that you can't already see. So if you see warning signs, just come off the power, let the speed drop a small amount, and then away you go. With this next left turn, we take notice it's quite a gentle turn. Now that means that when you signal, your signal may not cancel when you straighten the wheel up. So it's important after corners, particularly like this where it's quite gentle, it's important to just double check that that signal's gone off. We've got quite a narrow road as well, so you can see the pupil here. She's carrying a lowered speed, about 20 mile an hour, with the red light as well. There's no point rushing up to the end of the road. We're taking a right here. Now, with a green light, the cars on the left and the right should be stopped at red. You can see the van there stopping, so we don't have to worry as much about that. Notice the red light on the right here, that applies to the van, not us. Now recently I've had a few pupils where they come around corners and got a bit flustered by seeing that red light. And what you've got to keep in mind on junctions like this is when you leave the junction, the light doesn't apply to you because there's no stop line there. That applies to the van that's coming in from your left as you enter the junction or behind you as you come across, so it's facing them. You'll notice when you come up to a number of traffic lights, there is a light on the opposing side of the junction. Pointer at this roundabout, you notice the pupil slowed right down. There is a junction on the right which is quite hard to see until you're quite close, so you've got to make sure you come in slowly to that roundabout. Then down the hill, just be mindful of your speed. It's very easy to pick up the speed and end up going over the limit of 30 mile an hour. Then we've got a left turn coming up, which you'll see at the bottom. Very slow as you come around here, because there's normally a parked car as you come around that corner. And there he is. As we come around the bend, then we'll be taking a right turn, and this one is really important to get your position correct. You want to keep the car tucked into the left of the road until you see enough to make the turn safely. What you don't want to do is beeline into that and cut the corner. If you cut that corner and you can't see what's coming the other way, you're putting yourself in a high-risk situation. So slow right down, keep that nose tucked in until you're at the turning point, and then make your turn. Along this road, of course, we've got quite a few bends, quite a few side roads. It's still a 30 mile an hour limit, but you can see the pupil holding it quite slow as she comes around the bends and normally sitting at under 20. And that's absolutely fine for a road like this. There's not a lot of room if someone does come the other way, and then bends make it very difficult to see who's coming the other way anyway. the number of side roads and driveways too. We just want to be on the cautious side down residential streets like this. So I'm happy with the 20 mph speed. An examiner should be happy with that as well. If you do decide to travel faster than that, it can become problematic very quickly if there's vehicles coming the other way or parked vehicles just after bends. And that's very common on residential streets. So it's not worth rushing around. Take your time, keep it steady. As we come to the end of the road, the pupil is going to be taking a left turn, and you can see the hedges on the right make this very difficult to see. So you want to take this one really slowly, but keep your mind on the left and where you're going so you can bring the car in nice and tidy to your position, because it's a narrow road. If you swing out wide because you're looking right too much, that could lead to problems if there's oncoming traffic. Again, up ahead, we've got a number of parked cars on both sides, so you don't want to rush down this road. We want to really take our time, and you can see the pupil holding back 20 mph and under as she comes into these gaps. At the end of it, we've got the set of traffic lights. It's the same set we've just dealt with a minute ago, but from the opposite side. Now you can see the lights are green, however they may change before we get there, so you should always approach a green light with a little bit of caution. Keep in mind as well, with that green light, the traffic from your left and right is going to be held on red, so it's the oncoming cars you're looking for. As we approach, you can see the oncoming car, however the pupil makes the decision that she can cross that. Now, if you're going to make a decision like that, you've got to do it with confidence. If you come in with any uncertainty about making that turn, making that gap, then you should be cautious about it and hold back instead. But the key is always just to make a decision, either do or don't. Don't sit there and about it, because when you you don't make a decision, and then you're going to give yourself more problems when you react to the scenario rather than have it planned out. Up ahead, we've got a few warnings about cyclists, and we've got the school markings, and then some warnings about humps. Again, it's giving you a heads up for things that you may not be able to see straight away. And as you can see there, the pupil's lowered her speed for that. She's watching the crossing, and we've got another speed ramp where again she's keeping the speed nice and steady for that ramp. We don't want to hit them hard, because then you risk damaging your suspension, your tires, your tracking, and making your examiner very uncomfortable if you're on test. So take your time over those speed ramps. The best thing I find to make them smoother is slow down gently and then let go of both pedals and let the car roll over it nice and smoothly. When you're on the accelerator or the brake, it takes away from some of the smoothness of the movement of the car. So letting go is going to give you the smoothest ride over those speed ramps. Up ahead, we've got a few parked cars, and it can be very, very tight to get through here. If there's any oncoming cars here, you're going to have to wait for them to come through. We've then got the set of traffic lights where we're going to be turning right. This junction catches a few people out because the junction's a little bit twisted as you come in. You'll notice we curve round and we're facing diagonally into the junction. We're aiming to take the road on the right as we approach this, and as you can see from this one, it's quite a sharp turn. What we want to do is pull into the right as soon as we can, as soon as we clear the railings and curb on the right of us, and then give way to the oncoming cars. You can see the car on the other side parked outside the shop, so anything coming from that direction has priority over us. As we move on, you can see the road's nice and clear, so the pupil has a clear path across that junction. I'd have liked to see her pull in a little bit sooner because you can see there's a little bit of a kick at the end of that turn as she gets closer to the curb on the left side. Be very, very careful of that. Keep your eyes up on the road you're intending to go to, and that's going to help you bring the steering more accurately into that turn and avoid going wide or too tight. If you're focused on where you want to be, you're more likely to get there safely and accurately. Up ahead, we've got a mini roundabout. You can see the sign on the left there. Now, there's quite a few mini roundabouts in Ashfield where you've got more than one lane on approach. Just make sure you're firstly in the correct lane, and secondly, that you don't cut the other lane as you enter the roundabout. If you lean too far over and you cause a problem to the neighbouring lane, it is going to flag up on your test and get recorded by the examiner. Now, depending on the severity of that, it could just be a driver fault if it's a little nip of the line, but it could also be a dangerous fault if you actually cause someone to have to react to your presence there. At this roundabout, we're taking a right third exit. You can see the pupil lining up on the right there. The markings are terrible on the approach to this, but you can just make out that it's got a default approach, the left lane for straight and left, the right lane for left. As you come around to your exit, of course, left signals, left mirrors, and you can see the pupil lines up into the left lane really nicely there. Now that is exactly what I want to see when someone leaves a roundabout, that they move over to the left side if it's safe to do so. And that, of course, is going to put you in the most defensive and the ideal position, rather than being on the right side and having someone hovering around on your left side, because it is a little more difficult to look over that left shoulder or left mirror than it is your right hand side. Now, as we approach the bus and the traffic lights here, the pupil is staying in the left-hand lane. That's largely because we do intend to turn left. However, if you're carrying on straight, you would still want that left-hand lane unless your plan is to overtake the bus or turn right further ahead. So remember, default to the left-hand lane wherever it's reasonable or safe to do so. Notice the pedestrian up ahead on the right crossing the road. They should stop on those refuges. Just be mindful that some people carry on walking thinking it's a crossing. If you're ready for them, at least you can control the car nice and smoothly and not run them over. If you're not ready for it, you're going to be hitting those brakes pretty heavily if they do step out. So the key there, of course, is awareness, and your awareness level the examiners are going to pick up on. And of course, that awareness is going to affect the examiner's decision when they record any faults. If you show poor awareness, they're going to put a higher risk on any faults you make. Whereas if you have good awareness, they're likely to reduce the severity of your faults, and you may get a driver fault instead of a serious fault. A narrow road like this, what I'd like to see is lots of left mirror coverage. You need to know how close you are to that curb, particularly when there's oncoming vehicles, because some points on this road you will have to tuck right into that curb and get your wheels on the double yellow as you're driving along. Now, if you're doing that, of course, lower your speed, give yourself more thinking time, and that's going to really help you get the car accurately into place. At the roundabout, going straight ahead, you'll notice very faded, but there are two lanes here, so the pupil's sticking in towards the curb, making sure she checks the right before crossing that junction, and then straight over it. Again, the lane discipline on these mini roundabouts is really, really critical. If you get it wrong and you cut people up as you go across those junctions, you are going to get faulted on your test. So good awareness on approach, good positioning as you go into lanes, and then good observations, of course, are going to keep you safe. It's all about that awareness of what you're doing and who's around you. Up ahead at the traffic lights, we're going to take a left turn towards Mansfield. Now, as we approach that, you want to be mindful of any junctions hidden on the left. Notice the pub there. If you signal before that pub car park, people are going to think you're going in there for a pint. Now, of course, we might want to do that, but we're not doing that. So we don't want to give people misleading information that could cause them to change what they're doing. As we wait at the lights, you can see again the pupil has left a really good gap behind the black car. This is exactly what we want to be doing. We don't want to be right up on their bumper, because if something happens, like they break down or they roll back, We want a little bit of space between us so we don't get caught out by them. Coming out into the new road, there's 2 lanes and the pupil takes up the left-hand side, which again is the ideal place to be. When you do this, make sure you're watching your right side, because as you've seen here, the lanes close in very, very quickly. If you've got someone overtaking you and you don't spot them and you don't respond to them, then that could escalate into a problem, especially if you're trying to build your speed up to 50, which of course is the limit along this road. Approaching the next set of traffic lights, you can see the pupil again taking up the left-hand lane. All the lights are green, and then notice how the lights for the right turn change, but our lights stay green. Be very careful not to get caught out by that, because if you see the lights change and you react to that change, but it doesn't apply to you, then you're going to end up causing problems behind you as traffic expects to go, but you stop. Now, of course, doing something like that would result in a serious fault on your test, so be very, very mindful of those filter lights. Make sure that when those lights change, it is your light that you're responding to. Now, the warning sign there tells us there's another set of traffic lights coming up. We've then got our direction sign. We're carrying on straight at this one, so again, you'll see the pupil take up that left-hand lane to continue through the lights. As before, watch out for those filter lights. Notice how the right-hand lane can go, but we can't. So just like the previous set, we want to make sure that whatever we do is in response to the lights that actually apply to us. When it comes to being the front of the queue, like this pupil has, bring yourself right up to that stop line and then keep your eyes moving. Don't just stare at the lights. Don't just stare at whatever's in front of you. Keep your eyes moving and aware, because if something comes up behind you, such as a motorbike or a cyclist, and they want to filter through and you don't know about them, and then you move off as they're coming by you, you're going to cause a real big risk to them. Awareness is absolutely key when you're driving. Make sure you're constantly looking around, constantly scanning your mirrors, constantly engaging with whatever is around you. Up ahead, you can see more traffic lights coming up, and you can see the pupil already responding by coming off the power and letting the speed gradually come down. We're going to be taking a right turn, and that's going to take us past the test centre driveway, where we'll call it a day on this video. For this turn, you should have your mirrors and signal on before you enter this filter lane, and then glide it in nice and smoothly like this pupil has, following the line on the right, ready to line yourself up correctly for the turn. And again, up to the lights, get yourself right up to that stop line. Make sure you're obeying the lights that apply to you. These ones are going to tell us that we can go straight across the junction, with the right arrow telling us the oncoming will be on red. Watch out for cars from the left who may come across the giveaway line like that. And then, of course, build your speed up to the 30-mile-an-hour limit, which you can just see ahead now. That brings this video to an end. I know it wasn't a mock test, but hopefully you'll find the independent drive useful. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment. I'll keep these videos coming. Thank you again for watching, and God bless.